reveal's coming. The big reveal's coming. The big reveal's coming. Big reveal is coming.
There's a big reveal coming?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, Facebook. And good morning, Instagram. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a special Cotton Cuts Live coming to you this morning. I see folks are popping in. Be sure to accept the terms and conditions on YouTube and on Facebook so we can see you commenting. I see Terry and I see Joycey. Thank you guys so much for joining us. All of you joining us on Instagram, good morning. We are here with a special live interview from the Cotton Cuts featured designer for the month of April. So joining us this month is Stephanie. She is the owner at Quilt Addicts Anonymous, which has had a couple different iterations over its time as a company, and I can't wait to begin to hear all about her story. As a quick refresher, our featured designers are opportunities for us to partner with new and exciting people doing crazy and awesome things in the quilting world. And they will put patterns on our website, and every subscriber to our classic and to our modern maker box receives one of those patterns for free. So it's a good opportunity to get in on that modern maker box. If you haven't seen that collection, it's from Moda this month. There's sneaks all over our social media. You'll get a free pattern from Stephanie, or join our classic and you also get a free pattern from Stephanie. So without further ado, we're going to have Stephanie join us on Instagram and on Facebook. There are going to be technical challenges, people. This is always the fun part. Okay, so Stephanie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good. All right, let's get you joined on the Instagram. So this is always the fun part, people.
I did join the live.
All right, I have invited you to join.
All right.
So
I see that. Go live with Cotton Cuts.
dun, 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 dun. All right, so there's that echo, which we knew was going to happen.
All right.
It's okay. So
It's handle that, or do I handle that?
So make sure the volume is down on everything. So when we're live like this, it's different audio settings. Then
Okay. Volume is all the way down. Is that better?
I think it's a little better. Yes. Is there? There's no echo for me. Is there echo for you at all on your side, Stephanie?
Let's see. There is.
There's a little bit. Okay. So probably what we need to do is kind of separate your two devices a little bit.
Okay.
We can figure that out. Good morning, Melissa. How are you this morning? Good morning, Melinda Griffin. All right. We are getting the Instagram set up, which is always fun. There's just a little bit of an echo. I think we can go with this. Well, if you're listening to us and the echo is too much, please let us know and we will play with it and go from there. All right.
Hang on. Let's see if we can do this.
We're
I'm in
gonna
my kitchen today because I decorated my hutch. And this used to be in my videos. Oh, that's not a fun sight. And the echo's no better.
It's okay. Hello, Sandy Tharp. All right. If you are joining us from Memphis on Facebook, be sure to accept the terms and conditions so we can see who you are. Give us just a minute, folks. This technical challenges when we go live on all these different platforms, it literally changes every time we try.
If I hit that mute button, then they won't be able to hear me, will they?
So let's see. She wants to turn the audio of me talking all the way down on your side. I believe is how it goes.
Well, I did that.
Okay.
But there's a little microphone there. Do I hit that? But then they won't be able to hear me probably.
Let's see. I think that is true. Let me try making a quick modification on our side and we'll see if that helps. Let's see here. All right, let's try again, Stephanie. Let's see. Can you try talking? Okay, I can't hear her then is the problem. All right, try again, Stephanie.
Hey, let me try muting my own computer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, wait, I don't be able to hear you.
On my phone, yeah.
Okay, this might just be as good as we get.
I'm okay. As long as if everyone is listening and if there's an echo that you can't hear or understand us, that's totally fine. Stephanie, we've done literally one of these and then created a transcript from it and posted that because the echo is strange, right? And you've got like audio coming out of your computer and the phone and it's all great stuff. Okay. So Good morning. How are you? All right. We always have to navigate. That's a fun way to like figure out how we can handle stress and technology. Yeah. All right. So Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm going to start by my favorite first question I ask everyone, and that is tell us about you. Give us your elevator pitch. Tell us what makes you special. Tell us what makes you unique. Tell us your quilting journey. Give us the pitch, the pitch.
So I started Quilt Addicts Anonymous just as for funsies, basically. Okay, the echo is kind of bothering me now. Let's see.
That's okay.
Do this. This is so weird. It won't let me go all the way down. I'm just going to get it a little further away.
That's okay. That's okay. We got time. Hello, Terry. You can hear us fine. Good morning. So YouTube is working great. Where's Anthony, Melinda Griffin? Tell us where that's at. Is it in Memphis? Melissa says everything sounds great. Yeah, I think it's on our side. I think it's probably where the audio is. It's on Stephanie and my side where we can't hear everybody. All right.
All right, I'm back.
All right, that sounds great. Actually,
right. Sorry about that.
Okay, all right. So Stephanie, we'll just go back in time. All right.
Okay.
So
how did we start?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I was a very busy college student. I was the editor of my student newspaper, which was like a 30-hour-a-week job. I had a full class load. I was in extracurriculars. I was in a sorority. So, we went out a lot. And I did all those things. And I always worked too. I wanted to be a journalist. And so I was always doing some kind of an internship. And my dogs are barking. When I got out of school and I was just working 40 hours a week, I was so bored. Hang on. Sorry.
That's okay. All right. No, so it's funny. So that's kind of a similar story for me as well. I was one of those crazy overachievers, which I don't think I know any other quilters that are that. It's kind of a quilter's story, right? The overachiever. Yeah.
So I was just like super, super bored and I needed something to fill my time with. And I kind of knew how to use a sewing machine. I had one. And I kind of knew the very basics of quilting. So I got a quilting book, got some fabric. I figured my friends will start having babies soon. Maybe I'm going to go and figure out how to make baby quilts. And I just for like a solid year and a half, I would sew this very perfect 3/8 inch stitch and had no idea why it was a 3/8 inch stitch instead of a 1/4 inch stitch. Then I finally took my first actual legit in-person quilting class, and they're like, that's a regular press foot, not a 1/4 inch press foot. So between class 1 and class 2, I made an entire quilt with triangles. Every point was where it belonged. And I was just so proud of myself. And that kind of changed a lot. But fast forward a couple years, I met my husband at my first job at the newspaper I was working at. We got married, we bought a house, and we were it was definitely a fixer-upper. This kitchen I'm in now had not been touched since probably 1980. And it was bad. So I was writing this blog for the Times, the Quad City Times, where we were working, about home workies. And I would chronicle our fixer-upper stories and then also things I was making and sewing around the house. But I knew that not everybody would want to hear all my quilting stuff all the time. So I created a separate blog, Quilt Addicts Anonymous, which is the longest, most difficult to spell name. And I was not thinking about branding at the time. It was just for my funsies to put stuff out there. So I started doing that, and I would take every single class I could get my hands on to learn new skills. At the time, we had 3 really vibrant quilt shops around here. We still have a really large guild that would bring in national teachers. And within maybe a year or two, I was the one that was teaching in classes. So that was always really fun to walk in at 25 years old, and people assume that you're the student and you're going to be teaching people who are old enough to be your grandma. So that was kind of fun. And I did that for a really long time. And then when I was pregnant, I had come up with this block of the month. This is with my first daughter, who's almost about to turn 10 next month. And I was going to teach it one Saturday a month at the quilt shop I was teaching at. And they ended up with 5 students in there. I thought, this is just way too much work for 5 students. So I put it on the internet, and Craftsy was really big at the time. You could still put your patterns on it. And I thought, well, maybe 50 people will follow along from the blog. And by the end of the first year, it was 12,000. It was nuts.
Oh,
so I was doing like really bad YouTube video tutorials where like they would be shot in one take on a cell phone in my dining room in terrible lighting. It was just not good. And so eventually I started designing more patterns, selling some kits of fabric to go with the patterns I was making. And then I bought out like all the boutiques from a shop that was closing because we sold a lot of boutique at the time. And I had fabric lining every single wall of my house. And I was like, this can't happen. So I rented a small space and was just going to have it be like my working studio and, have a place to keep my inventory that wasn't full of dogs. And then quickly that ended up becoming like an accidental quilt shop owner from there.
Mhm.
And then things kept growing online, but not so much in store. And so we were really like struggling at first. And my husband was like, do you think, like, I came up with the idea for this like Stashing with Stephanie Club, which is similar to Cotton Cuts, which is no longer, if anybody's wondering about it, we closed that up last fall. But we would give people, a certain amount of fat quarters, and it stayed around like 50, and it was basically allowed us to have enough people prepay for us to bring in one collection a month. That was like where we were at in our business at the time. And my husband at one point was like, do you think you could do like a pattern a month to go with the fabric? And I was like, it was kind of like a hold my beer moment. And more than like 60 patterns later, we grew that club to over 800 members at its peak. But then when and we had like a team of 14, it was huge. We had a 4,000 square foot warehouse from the growth of that. And online just got really big, and YouTube got really big with all of our tutorials. And it was just really exciting. Like it employed my husband and I full time in there. We had a couple other full-time employees and then a bunch of part-time employees. And it was a great, awesome ride. But when you get to be that big, you have to like continually feed the beast. So you have to have you're nodding, you have to have a certain amount of cash flow coming in all the time, which is really stressful, in order to make sure everyone can get paid, in order to make sure that all your other things are working the way they're supposed to. And then eventually, when people started to crunch their budgets a little bit, when the interest rates started raising, we started losing membership because it's an extra, and you guys do a great job of making sure to have lots of things added on so that people are really excited about getting their boxes and keeping people engaged in that. And we just weren't able to adjust fast enough. So what we ended up doing last fall was closing down all material and fabric sales. So now it's just my patterns that are going out, and I'm doing some cool teaching opportunities, and I'm now doing video editing, like freelance video editing for people. And that is actually keeping me pretty busy. I'm working with a couple of fabric designers to promote their collections and my local garden center. So that's been really fun. So it's just, changes, life changes. Like, I always thought I would be a journalist forever, and then that industry completely changed. And so I went into digital marketing and did really well at that, and then used the skills to build my own business. And now I'm using the skills again in another way to provide for myself and my family. So it's just, life is a ride, and sometimes it's better than others, but we're getting back to the better part for me anyway.
Right. Oh my gosh. Okay. So that is an amazing story. Right.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of go through it a little bit. So we've been talking a lot on our channel about beginning quilters, right? And how you start out and kind of the things you learn. And I can completely relate about that 3/8 of an inch, because when I grew up, you used the presser foot that was on the machine that your mom had. And you just line it up to the edge of the presser foot. And so it's 3/8 of an inch. Until you take that class, you don't realize what you don't know. And I was like, there's actually a presser foot made for quilting.
Yes.
And it's those little tips and tricks that you learn that change the game. And so I'm glad you shared that, because a lot of times beginners think you have to know everything from the beginning. No. And you don't know what you don't know. My gosh. And so Stephanie, so it's interesting that you like that whole arc, that whole journey. I think people have this idealized vision. You wake up and you want to be a quilt shop owner. And almost every quilt shop owner I've talked to, it's accidental. It's just like you kind of fall into being a quilt shop owner before you know it. And
Yes.
then there's this idealized vision. I'm going to start a business and it's going to, my kids are going to take on and it's going to be a lifetime business. And then it changes and it ebbs and it flows. And I love the innovation you brought into your story, right? You're like, we pivot, we did this, and then all of a sudden it was this. And that's just so absolutely inspiring, Stephanie, for all of
You
us.
have to be able to do it or you're not going to be able to go forward. And honestly, our biggest mistake was that I wasn't able to pivot fast enough last spring, summer. So that way we could continue on. But honestly, my life is a lot easier now. In some ways, it's a lot harder. In some ways, it's a lot easier because I'm not having to work the insane hours to feed that beast. I just had to feed my own beast now.
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit easier. And quite frankly, when you're doing freelance marketing, it's a higher price tag. So I can make more money with less time.
Yeah.
And so that is,
yeah. No, there's always I always hear like, hey, how do I start a subscription box? I want to start a subscription box. And it sounds so simple at the beginning, right? You're like, oh, I'm going to curate a box. And then you have to curate the box the next month. And then you have to curate the box the next month. And every month you're on that treadmill. You call it feeding the beast. I'm like, you're on a treadmill. That treadmill's going to repeat. And so it's good in that the same thing happens every month, but the same thing happens every month. Yeah. And if a supplier is late sending you fabric or that notion, oh my gosh, it's every month. It's every month you're like adjusting. And I think, people subscribe, right? A lot of people do the unboxings and they subscribe and they love what we send them. But there's so much thought and intention that has to go into every single one of those packages every month.
Like all the marketing and the design of the materials and lining up your featured designers. Like, I think a lot of people thought that that we were bigger than we were because I knew digital marketing. So from an online perspective, it looked like more than that looked like we had like an actual person design our website, that kind of thing. And we did not. Like, I customized a YouTube or a WooCommerce theme. Like, that's what I did. But it's also is like people assume that like you also are doing it all sometimes. And so it's like, no, this is like a huge team effort. And that's why when things really declined for us, I was like, okay, what can I handle myself? Because this is literally all that the business can support is me. And like, I knew that physical products were not going to be part of that outside of my patterns because like, I'm one person, we're going to be working out of my basement. This is what it is.
Right. And I think that's, so I remember I read your post about the day you announced that you were going to be turning the subscription business down and going into pattern design. And I think it's fantastic for you to be so transparent with people, right? Because all of these businesses are managed by people, right? Yes. This is not a corporation, right? I mean, even Missouri Star, it's people, right? I mean, there's all these people, there's all these faces. We all have lives. We all have children. We all have, sometimes grandkids, me not yet, you not yet either, but we all have lives. And we're all people when we have to make business decisions. And I know some people kind of get mad when you make a decision like that, but at the same time, like, it's us and we need to do what's right for us. So enough talking about that shenanigans, right? That's all.
It's right.
All right.
And I've been really transparent too, because like I have not been on YouTube that much because, the winter, it was like experiencing a loss. I mean, Quilt Addicts Anonymous still exists, but not in the way that it did. And I don't have that really great working community to go to anymore. And it was just like me in my basement for a long time. And so that was really hard from a mental health standpoint. And, still even like getting in front of the camera and putting on the makeup on, like that has been a hard thing. Lately, it's been a hard thing just because my kids' schedules are completely insane. So to try to balance like, when are you actually in school and not on spring break or Easter break? Because I have everything down there ready to go to film. Like, I'm hopefully getting back on camera this week or next. But, I've been really transparent with people because people are concerned about me. They send me messages. Like, I'm like, I am here. I'm doing okay. I'm just like trying to fit it in.
Right. Yeah. And I think the more transparent and more candid people are, the more they understand, right? Yeah. I know a lot of people go to YouTube for content and it looks natural, but it's actually so much work. And so We did we did a live video every day between Christmas and New Year's, and my kids were on it with me. And every day it was like 20 to 30 minutes.
Mhm.
And they got to experience like in the beginning, it's a lot of fun. And then at the end, you're like, oh my gosh, like we're tired, right? You have to bring it every day. And so I love that I have found quilters are super understanding, right? They're like super nice people. Like I'm looking at the names on the side of the screen and I'm like, these people are like super awesome and great. And I like that quilters are more understanding than some places where it's a little bit more like, you had a bad day, I'm out. Like I'm good, right? And I love the quilters that if you're making a mistake on camera, they can laugh with you. Right? I feel like that's also part of the process as well.
People
All right.
loved our blooper reels. It was so much fun.
I know the blooper reels are hysterical. We do reels here, and I think we just did one this past week where we were filming for the eclipse, and one of my employees like completely ran into the door. And we're like, we're totally putting that in because that's the real world, right? That's how people live. And that's what we don't want to pretend to be this lanky, this nameless faceless organization that has a bazillion million employees. Because again, we're like you, 14 employees, 4,000 square feet. Like these are people. Your dog again.
Let me grab the dog.
It's okay. That's okay. All right. Good morning, Melinda. So you remember when your kids were younger? Yeah, it is definitely a lot going on in your life. And then to be doing these businesses that we do. Let's see. YouTube taught me to quilt. Yeah, Melissa Feldhouse. Yeah, I get it. YouTube is a game changer. And there's people that were creating awesome content like Stephanie that were teaching people how to quilt.
Well, when I started learning, I did not have YouTube. I mean, it existed, but not in the capacity that it is today. And so I just really wanted to share so that people could, skip a year and a half where they didn't know what pressure foot they needed to use, and they could just get straight to it.
And I feel like TikTok today is where YouTube was when you were first getting started on it. And it's like a stupid video, like it's all the like jokes and the gags and the reels. And I feel like, what is TikTok going to be in 5 years? And are people going to learn to quilt on TikTok? Is it going to more?
I think some people are. There's some really great creators on there that are really sharing some stuff. We used to only share tutorial-based content on there in just little chunks. And my goal is to get back to that at some point.
Yeah. I think TikTok is going to be where it is going. All right. So let's see here. So let's talk about your pattern design because that's the Stephanie where you are, and that's where the puck is going, right? Okay. So what is your favorite pattern you've ever designed and why? Give us some behind the scenes.
Probably Dimensions, which is not even on my website. I've got to get it back on the website. I know, right? It was a block of the month that I made with ombre fabrics. And it was, each block was one ombre fabric, but you cut it very specifically and laid it out very specifically. So it looked like you had this amazing stash of fabrics as the color change happened throughout the block. And it was done using Kinkami shades, which Clothworks used to distribute, but I don't know that they still do. And it was just so much fun to do and create. And I spent like 37 hours quilting it. Like I timed myself. It was insane.
So good. Piecing or quilting?
Quilting, just quilting.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And I went all out, all the thread color changes, tons of ruler work everywhere. And it was so much fun to do and put together. The problem with the block of the month designs is those files are huge. So like to get them into a format that I can put on my website is sometimes challenging. Right. So I'm going to have to put that on my to-do list because it's awesome. It's just like this explosion of color. We like go out in like color order with all these ombres and all the different blocks. And I realized as I was quilting it that I put, like in each corner, I put one block and flipped the wrong way. And I was like, oh, well, it is what it is. Too late now. I can't do anything about it.
Where's the quilt now? Do you still have it?
It's in my basement right now. I'm in my kitchen today because if you had followed me for a while, you will recognize this hutch behind me. It was in my first background for my YouTube tutorial when I was filming out my sunroom, like back at the very beginning. It's been in storage for a while. And then Friday night, my husband comes home and goes, let's get the hutch, which I've been asking to do for a flipping month. And I was like, yes, let's do it. And I stayed up until 5:45 in the morning doing this situation and getting it all pretty. Because I'm like, I just need like I don't know. Like we thought we would move and then we kind of held off on it because we wanted to kind of see what the economy was going to do. And thank God we did. But before that, everything had gotten painted gray and white. And I'm just like, finally, like, I'm like, okay, we're going to be here a minute. I need my personality back in this house. So this is like one of the steps.
Oh my gosh.
So
How fun. And how, right. I mean, there's so many people I'm sure that can relate to the like, hubby, I need you to do this. Hubby, I need you to do this. Hubby, I need you to do this. And then when you get it, you're like, okay, it's in the right place. Let's make it ours. That is fantastic. Yes. All right. All right. So we talked about a couple of these questions. I'm looking at my list. Okay. So where do you find inspiration for your designs? So
it always
design
came,
patterns where?
it always came from the fabric. When I was doing like the fat quarter patterns, I would like take my bundle and I would put it in my pretty little wheel and I would look at it and I would think, what are my color values? What's my spread of light, medium, dark here? And what scale is the design? And do I have a bunch of color changes or just a couple colors to work with here? And then I would like go do something else. And then eventually a day or two later, it would just pop into my head and I would know what I'm doing. Sometimes though, the design will come to me just out of the blue. And those are always really good designs. I had one come to me not that long ago, so I'm like pretty excited about that. But and sometimes it's like because I want to teach a technique. So like I'm going on a transatlantic cruise that I am teaching on. It's so Travelry. And for that one, I knew I needed to teach. I wanted to teach 5 different types of triangles. So I designed it so that we would have each of the types of triangles in there and it all serves a specific purpose, but also looks cool. And I also wanted it to be like doable that they might be able to get the top done while we're in class. So it's, it's on the smaller side of things and has a lot of negative space. So we can just put borders on and things like that.
All right. So you when you talked about designing inspiration, you hit like something that so many quilters struggle with, and that's the color theory.
Oh yeah.
The light, medium, dark, and scale, and how to get the right tones. So what tips and tricks do you have for people as they're picking out fabrics for your patterns? Are there classes? Is there something online? How can quilters help connect to the color theory needed for some of these designs?
So we actually did a video with Bobby who worked for me. And he learned how to quilt. He worked with my husband and I were at the newspaper. He was in the sports department. And so he knew nothing about quilting. We just knew he was a hard worker and he'd be able to do web stuff. And so we brought him on. And so he wanted to learn quilting so that he knew a little bit more about it. And we did things 2 ways. We did it as I have this pattern that I want to make fabric with. And so then we pulled out all of our like fat quarters that we had like for single sale. And we brought those out and we're just like our remnants and we pulled to make it work for that. And in that case, it was like a rainbow one. You needed a specific amount. And so we wanted to make sure we first pulled everything we liked. And then we kept narrowing it down to the point where we felt like we had a balanced rainbow. Like we didn't have a ton of, red or something. You don't want that. You want an equal amount of each color for that particular pattern. So you get a nice little rainbow going across it to kind of mimic what the original one looked like. And then we went backwards where he had a fabric that he liked and he wanted to turn that into a quilt, but he didn't know what it was. So we had a little fat quarter bundle and we went through, pulled out my 2 fat quarter books, Fat Quarter Patchwork Quilts and Fat Quarter Workshop, and then all of the patterns. And on all of those, if there is like a specific division of light, medium, dark, it says so of how many you need for each size. And then you can go through and you can kind of decide, is this going to work or not? And so we went through all of them and like we knew we had, I think it was like 11 fat quarters. So we looked for patterns that you could do with 11 or less fat quarters. And we set those aside. And then we went through it again and we were looking at light, medium, dark and kind of went from there. And then the other part, which we didn't really cover in that video, is scale. So if you have like an Anna Maria Horner, you need something that you can put big. If you've got a Tula Pink, you need something that you can put big. Maybe even some extra fabric so you can fussy cut and get, you know, the motif right where you want it to be. If you are dealing with something that is a smaller print or you're mainly looking at the color, doesn't matter. You can go smaller, and honestly, it looks better if it's smaller because like a blender big doesn't necessarily look good.
Right.
So those are the kind of things that you really want to look for to make sure that it looks good. And then while I love to have a scrappy looking quilt, I have learned over time that you really don't want to have a scrappy background. Unless you really, really are good with color and scale matching, that's really hard to pull off to make it look the way you want. And you need to have like a ginormous stash you need to collect forever in order. So if you have those two things, if you have the ability to really, really color match well for like a background, did you like a low volume background and you have a massive stash, go for it. Have fun, experiment. But if you don't have those two things, just pick one background.
Right.
It doesn't have to be white. I've done like cave quilts with a lime green background and it looked absolutely fantastic.
Right.
But like you need just go with one. And it gives the eye a place to rest, and then your design can pop.
And I think the concept of all backgrounds have to be white or black is going away. I see more grays, I see more navies, I see more purples. You mentioned lime green. This background color is becoming trendy. Like it's becoming more popular to put a different color. Going back to the light, medium, dark. I know this is a concept that's really hard to kind of visualize, light, medium, dark. I have a whole of these fabrics in front of me. What is light? What is medium? What is dark? And a tip that I picked up was take your cell phone and put it on either black and white or sepia and take a picture of your fabric. And it'll actually tell you by looking at the image, what is your lightest, your medium, and your darkest that you can't necessarily see with your naked eye. And that's helped me. Bonnie Hunter does a lot of mystery quilts like this. And it's here's my paint chip and I need to be able to match it. And taking that photo in sepia, game changer for light, medium, dark for me. It's been awesome. And I think it's something it's hard to do. And by the time you realize you've made the mistake, it's almost too late. It's almost,
And like also color values is a relative thing, right? So if you like, I'm looking at the greens behind you. There's one green that's really sticking out as that one looks dark among those. But if we're going to put that next to like the deeper blues that are a little further down, then it becomes medium.
Right.
And so it just depends on what you're mixing it with as to what you're going to consider your light, medium, and dark. The biggest thing, and I do this in all of my patterns when I'm designing for light, medium, dark, is I put the light in the middle. And then I have a white background because for us, whenever we did a white background, it sold a lot better than when I did anything else. And so if you're going to flip that, like say you want to have a black background, then your dark needs to go in the middle and then you can have your lighter on the outside. So there's all kinds of ways that you can make it your own, but you kind of just have to figure it out. Also, like I kind of explain it this way, like there's two types of people doing a kitchen remodel. There's the one that can see the countertop sample, the backsplash sample, the cabinet sample, the flooring sample, and see the finished kitchen. And then there's a person that needs the rendering in order to be like, yes, I like this. Let's go for it. And I'm the first person. Like I put this in here. I now want to paint all my cabinets Napoleonic blue from Annie Sloan. They're already blue in my mind. And I picked out a backsplash, not bought it, but picked it out with these beautiful blue modern hexagon. It's like white with shades of blue. And I'm like, this is my kitchen. I know what it's going to look like. I see it in my mind's eye now. Like, I just know, like, that's just how my brain works. But not everybody's brain works that way.
No, I definitely need to see the sample. And then when I see the sample, give me exactly those fabrics. Like that is how a lot of people come to this. All right. So talk to us about what future projects you're working on, Stephanie. What's coming? What's coming in the next 6-9 months for you? Where's Quilt Addicts Anonymous going? Give us the forward-looking spiel.
So the most immediate things is on May 2nd, I'm leaving on a transatlantic quilting cruise. And I do believe there are still some suites available. I think you can sign up until 2 weeks beforehand. So if anybody has some money to burn and wants to travel from Florida to a little tiny island off the coast of Portugal, and then UK, Ireland, and Belgium, you can do those things. And I am 100% taking the train from Southampton to London to visit the Fabric Shopping District and Liberty of London before I leave, because that is a once in a lifetime situation. We're gonna do it. It's really fun. And my friend Chantel from college, who also became a quilter, she's coming with me. So it's going to be a blast. We are away from our children for 16 nights and we are like primary parent to our children. So like we have a succession of in-laws coming in and parents to help with this. Because God forbid our husbands manage to do it on their own with like their jobs and stuff. But their jobs are less flexible than what we do. But it's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited for it. We have 8 days at sea, and that's when the quilting retreat is going to happen. So I'm teaching basically an in-person version of our Triangle Masterclass, which you can take for free on Quilt Addicts or academy.quiltaddictsanonymous.com. And it goes through 5 different, this quilt goes through 5 different types of triangles. We start from squares because it keeps your bias more stable and ends up with a better end result. And we're going to really kind of go through all the tips and tricks in making that. And then also sewing them together so that you don't lose a point. So when I make my sample, Ray and John, who are putting this quilting cruise together, if you see this, I promise I will have the sample done and beautiful and before we leave. But when I make the sample, I'm going to be filming all those steps. So we're going to do a sew along when I get back, and the kit is going to be available through Fraud Design Studios because I am using their basic fabric for this. And there's 2 different colorways for that. A black background and a white background. So depending on where you're at and what you like, those are your options. So that's really exciting. I'm really happy to like be back in the groove doing that. I'm actually teaching this weekend at a local-ish quilt guild, the Muscatine Bell and Patchwork Quilting Guild. It's my first in-person teaching since 2019. So I'm like, okay, let's just get this done with before I'm like on for 13 days with people. Like it's been a minute. It's usually just me, the dogs, and in the basement like most days. So it's like, I need to be among people before I go be like among people for real. So those are like the big immediate things that are happening. And then I'm working on another book, and this one is going to be all about panels. And we are doing everything from panel quilts in a couple of different ways. We're going to do just some blanket patterns where you can take a vertical panel or horizontal panel, whether it's a 24-inch wide or a 36-inch wide repeat, and add a specific border size to it to where you can put any 12-inch block you want on the outside of it. So it can really just have some fun with it and do that. So those are like the quilty ones. And then there's a bunch of smaller projects too that you can make with it. Table runners, table toppers, like no piecing placemats, because those are getting really popular right now. Pillows, all kinds of different things, plus some more pieced type things too, where you fussy cut the things in the panel and make it work. I'm doing, hopefully before I leave for the cruise, so I can photograph it on it, a bag that fits exactly to TSA regulations, so it can be a carry-on, all those fun things. So it's been a fun project to work on, and that's kind of the immediate. I want to get back to doing videos. How frequently, I don't know yet, because things have gotten a little busy for me because I'm doing a lot of freelance marketing for clients. That used to be my job beforehand. I worked at an agency, and so now I'm doing it, kind of on my own, and I get to pick my own schedule and stop when I need to go get my kids from school without a boss looking at me like, And so, it works. So that's kind of what we're up to.
Fantastic. Oh my God. So I love panel quilts.
Yeah.
So I was happy to hear you say, okay, there's patterns that have the whole panel, right?
Yeah.
But then there's the patterns that have we're going to cut the panel up, right? Because I know there's like panel purists, but then I see a panel and I'm like, oh my God, it's such an incredible canvas. Like I wish I could take it and amplify it and make it better. And we just had a sales rep here this morning. I saw a lot of panel quilts and I was like, oh, there's so much potential here. And so I love that you're bringing them back. I think that's fantastic. I cannot wait to see the book when it comes out. Stephanie, what else do you want to leave us with? How can people find you? How can they catch up with you?
Well, shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com is where all the patterns are. If you want to be able to get a pattern very quickly, get the PDF version. That makes my life easier for sure. Also, we're doing a little bit more work with distributors, so you may be able to find the patterns in your local quilt shop. So ask for those. Right now, they're available through Checker, but they're also going to be available through Brewer shortly, and hopefully Moda as well. So those are things that I'm kind of working on the back burner. And we haven't really promoted it a ton, but I would like to do more on our academy.quiltaddictsanonymous.com website. This is a learning website where you can kind of keep track of your courses, because we've done so many YouTube videos over the years that sometimes it's hard to find what you're looking for from us. And this website kind of categorizes it by the pattern name for one is in the class title. So if you have one of my patterns and you need some help with it, you can just go there and search for the pattern and it's up there. And you can find it and you can watch, in most cases, a piecing video and a quilting video all in one course. But then there's also lots of other things. There's some free stuff, especially around Christmas time things out there. And it's just fun, just working on stuff like that.
The learning website is academy.quiltaddicts.anonymous.
Yeah, academy.quiltaddictsanonymous.com. And then the shopping website is shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com.
Perfect. And for the Academy, is there a cost? Is there a fee? Is it free? Tell us about the resources you have there.
So some of them are free. Some of the courses are free. Some of them are paid, and it's all like, usually it's a low fee. We're looking in most cases like $9.99 to do it. And then you also would get a discount on a PDF for the project to go with it. So like if you buy like our ultraviolet course, then you will also be able to click on a link on the supply list, which you only have access to once you pay for it. And then you can go on and go from there. We have a ruler work quilting class that costs, I think it's like $25. And that one, I think the first set of lessons are free. And then after that, it's paid for beyond that. So it's just, it's kind of fun. You can kind of get a taste of it, decide if you like it, and then continue on if you want.
And so also Stephanie has very generously given us access to the tutorials for the patterns that we're featuring in our boxes this month, and they're going to be on our blog. So if you want to kind of see what the tutorial is and how it feels like, Stephanie has given us access to those. They're going to be on the Cotton Cuts blog shortly. So Stephanie, thank you so much. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to chat with us. It has been fantastic to hear your story. I know it's been a journey, and I appreciate you sharing that super candidly with all of our folks. That is very helpful for everybody. And I'd rather you do that than like everything is glowy and happy and awesome.
Life doesn't work that way. It would be great if it did. But that's just not how things go.
Right. But I mean, this pattern, like the panel quilts, I mean, that is awesome. And I love that you're getting ahead of that, because I feel like in a year and a half, that's all we're going to be talking about. All right. So a quick reminder, Stephanie is our featured designer for our classics and our modern makers for this month. You will get a free pattern and access to the tutorial for how to make that pattern for this month. All the patterns are on our website right now, the 5 that we've selected to be featured. If you subscribe to a modern maker or a classic, you will get one for free, and you will get to make an awesome pattern that Stephanie has just told us all about. Join her on the cruise. Like, I can't believe you're getting that much free time away from your kids. That is a gift in and of itself. All right. And so that is it. So thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you, Stephanie. And if you guys have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. Our team will answer them. We'll bring in Stephanie if we need to. And we will see everyone on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. for our regular live broadcast. Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Stephanie. Bye.
Bye.